Hello everybody, Andy here again. Well, I've been tagged, you know. Gary Anakin 1814 the other day, because there's this sort of random 5 facts sort of tagging thing that's going around on YouTube at the moment. I'm surprised there's anyone left to actually tag. But so I got tagged the other day, and it's one of those things you think, actually it's quite nice that someone's thought of you, and then you think, oh God, I've got to try and think of 5 random facts about yourself. So I apologise now that some of the facts that I do I may have mentioned sort of bits and pieces of them in sort of previous vlogs and things like that. And what I hope to do, actually, if I can find them, is to put some photographs in as well. I may well just put them all in at the end rather than try and breaking it up and trying to find appropriate gaps. But anyway, off we go. First fact, random fact number 1. In my younger days, up to about 10 years ago, I used to do sort of a fair amount of running. I got into it when I was about sort of 30, I suppose, and did it for about sort of 10 years, you know, just for fun, you know, keeping yourself fit and all that sort of stuff. But during that time, I actually did 4 London marathons, and I did a couple of other marathons as well. The Beachy Head Marathon. If you've seen any of my scenic walks over the South Downs around the Seven Sisters and Beachy Head, you can guess what the sort of terrain of those were. But so I did the London Marathon 4 times. My best time was 3 hours and 27 minutes, which is actually quite a respectable time, if I say so myself. I also used to do quite a lot of half marathons, like the Hastings half marathon. I think I did that 10 times in total. I keep trying to get back into it, because so the last time I did the London Marathon was 10 years ago, 1998. Yep, 10 years. And I keep trying to get back into it, you know, to try and get your fitness back. You know, we've all got a bit of extra weight, and there's a bit more padding around the middle-aged spread and all that sort of thing. So I keep trying to get into it, but whether it's old age or just lack of enthusiasm and that, I don't know. But I keep trying, and I will keep trying. So maybe I'll try that this year, I don't know. So I may well get back into that. Anyway, that's number 1. Number 2, I have mentioned in passing in videos before that sort of 25 years ago or thereabouts, so I used to play the drums in the sort of local rock bands and that when I used to live in Kent, about 30 odd miles away from where I do now. And how that came about, I was at school, you know, as you with your mates at school, a couple of who sort of played guitar and that sort of thing, and were trying to get bands together, and they were possibly a bit more serious than lots of other people at school who were trying to get bands together. And we used to go around a mate's house and listen to all the sort of music that was about, all the decent rock music that was about in the sort of getting on for the mid-70s, I suppose it was. And used to listen to all these, and I used to play along on their guitars. And my mate had, one of my friends had a set of bongos. So I used to sort of sit there tapping away, banging out all these little rhythms on these bongos, and one of the guys on the guitar said, I reckon you'd make a drummer, you know, you sound alright, you know, I think you'd be alright at that. So like you do, I was working at the time, a bit of money in my pocket maybe, and so off we went down the local sort of music store, and I bought a drum kit. Never really seen a drum kit before in my life, and there I am with a brand new drum kit, hoping that I can play it. Thankfully I could, so that, and the rest is history, so they say. But I did enjoy it, and the more I get, the older I get, maybe sort of looking back, the older I get, I think, yeah, I'd quite like to do that again. But I've actually got some music that we did a few sort of studio sessions, nothing serious, nothing signed or anything like that, but we put out a single and contributed tracks to local albums and things like that. So I'm hoping to sort of digitise them if I can, and you never know, I may even subject you to them at some time. That's if I can bear them myself. They sounded alright at the time, but this is 20 years ago, or just over 20 years ago now. So that's random fact number 2. Random fact number 3. My father, who is 91 years old later on this month and still going strong, thankfully, when he was a bit younger, in the sort of in the Second World War, he was actually living in the East End of London, and I think it was September the 7th, 1940 was the first day of the Blitz on London. Anybody knows their Second World War history will probably know about that. And he lived in the sort of Docklands area, and he was actually in the area at the day that happened. And he told me some great stories about, quite frightening stories about the area he lived in. He was sort of going home to his first wife's house and ended up being sort of evacuated down into an underground station. They came out the next morning after the air raid had gone, and he said that the scene was absolutely unbelievable. But so that's another random fact. What he did after that, he was actually seconded to the 8th Army and actually was out there in North Africa fighting Rommel up in sort of Egypt and Libya and all those sort of places, and he went all over. He went to Iraq and Iran and all these sort of places as well. Quite interesting, but I'm sure it wasn't that great when you're out there fighting. So that's number, what was that? That was number 3. Number 4 on the same sort of track, I suppose, family history. I've actually done a fair amount of family history myself, looking back into it. Several years ago. I haven't really got back into it recently. Too many other things going on, as you can see. But I've actually sort of tracked my family back to sort of the end of the 1600s, and with the help of other people, I've actually got my sort of ancestry down to, on my father's side, down to about 1630 or something like that. So that's 400 odd years ago, you know, and you're thinking that's not bad. And my actual family all come from the Norfolk area on my father's side. My mother's side, it seems to be Sussex, which is appropriate because that's where I am now. So that very interesting. If you ever get a chance to look into that, you find all these amazing stories. As I said, like the East End of London side of it, my dad's is actually would be classed as a Cockney, I suppose, and my family moved down to that area in the early 1800s, as lots of people did, to get away from the land, because there was no money to be made. Anyway, I digress. That was number 4. Number 5, trying to think of different things and watching what other people say as well. And someone mentioned about, I think it was Gary even actually mentioned about sort of travelling. So I thought I'd tot up all these sort of countries that I visited, and I've worked it out that I visited 15 different countries, mainly throughout Europe, but I've never actually been north of Newcastle in Britain. So I've never been to Scotland. I have been to Wales, never been to Ireland. Other places I've been to, say mainly Europe, as I said, several places like Spain I've been to a couple of times, Switzerland 3 times I think. I've been to Egypt twice, and the USA I've been there 3 times as well, and hoping to go back this year as well, and hoping to go back to Spain as well. So there you go, 5 random facts, and this has probably taken far too long, but I thought I'd flesh it out a little bit. As I said, what I intend to do is hopefully put a few sort of photos on there to sort of make it a bit more interesting. The idea is to sort of a bit more personalised, so you can learn about people. You learn a bit about me, hopefully, and hopefully you wanted to know about that sort of stuff. Anyway, I've now got to tag 5 people as well. That's if there's any left. I've checked on the sort of spreadsheet, and these people were still available at the time of recording this. So here we go. Number 1, Ravensinger, and by the way, anybody, you should check these people out because they're all very good video makers. Ravensinger is number 1. Number 2, Pappy Stu, Stukeck. Number 3, Kenrg. Number 4, Samantha, also known as Oddsweb. And number 5, Gary, also known as BradThunder. So if you want to check them out, there'll be links up over there somewhere, so you can check them out as well. So thanks for Gary, I think, for tagging me on this. Go and watch all the others, because it is quite an interesting way of finding out about people. So quite a good experiment, and it's spreading and spreading and spreading. So thanks for your time, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed finding out a little bit about me, maybe, and 5 random facts. Anyway, thanks for your time. As I said, I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.